I always imagined there'd be a day with a memorial service focused on our precious Bettye Quinn. But the way she kept going and going, I just didn't know if it would be me speaking at her service or Betty speaking at mine. I hate that we can't be together to celebrate the life of our beloved Bettye Quinn, who is such a remarkable jewel of Belhaven University. We should be in the Center for the Arts. It would be packed to the rafters. There would be a line all across campus trying to get in, but that line would extend all the way down State Street and wrap around Baptist Hospital, where she served for so many years. And it would find its way over into Jackson, into Wells United Methodist Church, where she was such a faithful Sunday school teacher. And that line would extend out to hundreds and hundreds of schools and teachers all across Mississippi and around the world. That would be the line to get into this service to celebrate her life. Well, I hope that after COVID is over, we'll have the opportunity to come together and to remember Bettye Quinn, to tell stories, to laugh, to celebrate her life, a remarkable life that it was. You know, I tried and tried to get Betty to slow down, and she just wouldn't do it because her life was all about service. Everything she did was about service. Service is what drove her. I tried to get her to back off a little bit on the teaching, maybe skip a few meetings. She didn't have to be at every chapel, but she wouldn't do it. She never missed a class. She was the first one at faculty meeting and every other meeting. She was always there in chapel, down front on the left, about a third of the way back on the aisle. And I will greatly miss her. You know, in COVID-19, we have been put at home and we had to switch all of our classes to online. And Betty, just like she's always done everything, was the first to engage. I had the opportunity to talk with her about a week before her heart attack. And she was on Zoom with me for about 30 minutes. She had on these big gamer headphones with a microphone, and she had the picture of Belhaven in the background. And she was telling me how much she has enjoyed teaching the students during this time of having to do it with COVID. And she told me how much she loves teaching Sunday school online and how great that is. And talked to me about how much she loved the virtual graduation and the graduation message. And I asked her, I said, Betty, are you nervous about coming back in the fall and being exposed? And she said, oh no, I can't wait to get back with my students and to get back with the faculty. She was so anxious to come. You know, she signed just a few days before she died her contract to begin her 55th year of teaching at Belhaven. And she wrote back a little note to the provost on that contract. And she said, I praise the Lord for his blessings to all of Belhaven and to me. That was on May the 14th, just a few days ago. You know, from time to time in the last many years, I've had people quietly whisper to me, well, how long can Betty keep going? And my answer's always been the same. Betty can keep going as long as she wants to, because Betty is the heartbeat and the soul and represents all Belhaven is about. We had the privilege to present Betty with an honorary doctorate in May this last year. I'm so glad we did it and had this chance to lift her up and to present her with this degree. I know it meant a lot to her, and I want to share with you the clip of that commencement service and about 3 minutes with the introduction of Betty, because it probably gives a better eulogy than I can give now. And it helps to give us in context the significance of all that she has done for Belhaven, for Baptist, for this community, for the church, and mostly for the kingdom. There is no one person more identified with Belhaven University than Bettye Quinn. She enrolled as a student at Belhaven the year I was born, 1954. After she graduated in 1958, she did graduate work at Mississippi State and then taught public school for 8 years before returning home to the Haven to join the faculty in education and psychology. I think Betty's won nearly every award Belhaven has. We don't have any other awards to give her other than today. And I think she's won about every award given by the educators of Mississippi. She's also served in leadership positions for educational governing bodies for the state and the teaching associations. In total, Bettye has taught for 61 years, equipping hundreds of our graduates to teach, and in turn, through their classrooms, her life has touched thousands and thousands of students. I could probably count on one hand the number of times Bettye has missed chapel through the years. She attends so many of our events in order to be supportive of students and of her colleagues. All at the same time, she's as tireless in continuing her pattern of serving others beyond the university. When Bettye was a sophomore at Belhaven, she became a volunteer in the emergency room check-in for Baptist Hospital, serving countless hours through the years. And for 64 years, she has worked every single Christmas day so that an employee with a family and children could be home with her kids for Christmas Day, and she would take their place. And during her junior year at Belhaven, she began teaching Sunday school at Wells United Methodist Church and has never stopped. That's a lot of Sunday school. It's a privilege to present to you to receive the honorary degree Doctor of Education, Belhaven's treasurer, who has given her life to this university and our students because of her love for Jesus, Dr. Bettye Quinn. Here, I'm going to pull this off. There we go. That'll work.
I wasn't planning on talking, but I always like to. But I am just so humbled with this, and I thank the college so much and Dr. Parrott. And I do say that I've just loved all of my students at Belhaven, and when you come back, I'll have a story to tell about you.
Well, Betty's in heaven before we are, but she's going to be there ready to welcome us with a story. And she'll have one about me, and she'll have one about you when you get there. And as teachers come into heaven, she's going to have story on top of story on top of story of what they have meant to her and what their life has meant. I just have this image that in heaven, God's going to have this big, huge screen that in front of Bettye is going to open up with the people that she taught, and then branches out from that to the people, to the children that those teachers influenced, and the families they influenced, and there'll be this gigantic web of influence that went out from Belhaven University because of the dedicated life of Bettye Quinn, who would not stop serving no matter what. You know, Billy Graham, who Bettye did love quite a bit and would often talk to me about Billy Graham. But Billy Graham said the greatest legacy one can pass on to their children or their grandchildren is not money or material things accumulated in your life, but rather a legacy of character and faith. Bettye didn't have children. She had thousands and thousands of children in schools all across this state, many who are now grown up with their own children because of the influence she put into their lives through the teachers she trained, and that web will continue and continue. I can't imagine BU without BQ. It just won't feel right. She is in our hearts, though. She's in our spirit. She's in all that we are at Belhaven University. Our prayers especially go out to Tony and Lori, who Bettye has invested so much of her life in in them and how deeply they loved her. And as they're hurting, especially during this time of Betty going on to heaven and going back to a house that's empty and all the challenges with that, will you join with me, especially in lifting up Tony and Lori in our prayers? They are precious people, and Betty loved them dearly and gave them a legacy of character and faith, just as she gave it to you and to me. Well, you know, Betty really did love chapel. She really did. Every chapel service, I'd come out at the end and she'd be getting in her car. In these last few years, she'd have her walker and she was trying to maneuver in her car. And I'd always say, Betty, can I help you? And she said, oh, no, I'm fine. I can get there. And she never wanted help. She always did it her way. And she'd always comment either on my message or the message of the speaker or something about chapel. And she never, ever, ever missed chapel. But you know, we ended that chapel with a familiar verse that's become ingrained in the life of our university and of our students. A scripture that is the benediction of whatever the topic of that chapel is. And she knows it well because she's been through years and years of those chapels. And it says, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. And God has prepared the very best for all of us and for Betty. He's prepared heaven. And today Betty is there, rejuvenated, restored, back to the energy she had, back to the laugh and the excitement and all that she is, because God prepared that for those he loves. Well done, thy good and faithful servant, Bettye Quinn. A life well lived. You know, Jesus set the standard for the purpose of life and what it's all about. And it's Belhaven's motto, to serve, not to be served. Bettye Quinn showed us that is possible.